Again, if you'd like that spinal support, you can lean up against a wall. I'm gonna open my palms just because I feel like I need to let go of some energy. But if you want to ground that energy down, feel free to place palms face down. If that doesn't feel good, hands in lap, wherever you're comfortable. Allow these first few exhalations to be really dramatized, to really expel any stagnation or stuck energy through the diaphragm or lungs. And as we slow down, begin to tune inwards to the inner language, the inner dialogue that your body begins to produce. And sometimes it's a little shouty, sometimes it's a little whisper. But just beginning to greet each verb and adjective that comes up with compassion, with some grace. Begin to follow the rhythm of your breath. Softening into the tissues around your cheeks. Unsticking any pressures through your jaw or nose and sinuses. And just even observing your eyelids, whether they're half closed or fully closed, just removing any creasing or wrinkling around the brow line and just easing any pressure there, allowing it to soften and slow. When you think of that slowness arriving to that brow line, think about that slowness landing behind it, right into that prefrontal cortex, that third eye point, the connective point there, where we hold and harbor their egoic thought processes, that 5 to 7% of survival instinct that we need, the I am complex. And allowing the exhale to step you out of the I am complex into the we are mindset, collectively, interchangeably observing how your energy begins to rebalance as you move and flow through each day around each and every living organism. And just beginning to observe your inner vibrancy, your inner energy, that prana. Follow the flow of your breath to ignite it and relax it. Notice where your breath is landing in your body. Can we soften the rib cage and front belly tissues enough to observe that gentle buoyancy of belly breath? Right, so slow, intentional inhale, filling chest, ribs to belly. And then reversing it, slow exhale, belly, ribs, chest. Allowing those tissues to become more supple and reflexive to their everyday demands. Let's take 5 more easy, mindful breaths. I want your next breath to be full enough to collect up any old, used up air. Inhale. Hold at the top. Take an extra sip of air. Clean the slate, let it go. Easy breath in. Let's blink the eyes open. Welcome this space back in. And then just starting nice and easy tonight, we're gonna actually come onto all fours with our bolster. You might want to lay your blanket down on your mat for some extra joint cushioning. I know this floor is very tough, so if you're working at home on carpet, lucky you. But just unfolding the blanket, creating a little bit more padding for your joints. All right, we never say no to blocks or props, we always invite them in. And then I'm gonna tuck the bolster just right underneath my hips towards my belly and chest so that when I bow forward, I can fully surrender my chest and ribs down to the bolster. Now the goal here is just to fully surrender the weight of your upper body. So sometimes that means we need maybe more than one bolster. Sometimes that means maybe we need to add a block or two under the bolster to lift it up higher. So again, if the bolster's too low, adding a block. Either way, slowly bowing down, landing chest, ribs, chin, maybe turning a cheek into a passive child's pose. Now, again, you don't need the block, it's just an option. But allowing your body to melt and mold onto the bolster. Branch the arms wide enough so that the forearms and elbows can rest. Take a cleansing belly breath in, just feel it. Side out. As you breathe in, trace the length of your spine with your inhale. And as you breathe out, notice your belly soften. We're going to be here for a few minutes, so give yourself permission to fully relax back. Sometimes having this much flexion at the knees is too tough on the knees. You can place a blanket, pillow, or blocks or bolster between the calves and the hamstrings to assist. But again, you'll find what works for you to really soften in. And then let's plant a seed of intention tonight to really invoke some recovery, some deeper, more nurturing, soulful restoration. And then just breathing that intention in, noticing where and how that lands for you. Where does it begin to percolate in your body? And how does it begin to percolate in your mind? Release any tension through your ribs or belly. Notice when your body goes quiet, what is left, just the buoyancy, the lightness of breath. Hopefully that easier, more intentional observation of your body. Last 5 breaths. Slowly pick yourself up. Shift your bolster or block forward so that it is at the top of your mat. Come forward onto your belly. Getting into a scorpion twist, opening your chest and shoulders. Come to land your belly with your chin on the bolster. And I like to even kick the legs out further back behind me. I'm going to set my timer here. All right, so getting into our chest and shoulders. Nice and slow. Expand your arms wide to a T. Keep the right hand extended. Keep your gaze forward for now. Plant your left palm, bend your left knee. Now, keeping the right arm extended, shoulders hug away from the ears. Slowly roll to your right side body, any amount. Let the bolster catch your neck and head. This top left leg can rest anywhere that's comfortable. If you like it bent, you can keep it bent. If you like it elongated, keep it elongated. This left palm's just there as a prop in front of you to assist in balance. Pull the shoulder blades together behind you and gently firm the right palm down, just creating a little bit of traction through the chest. Lean your head back in line with your heart. And then with the next big heartfelt breath, sink the joints. Let your body get really heavy. Notice that opening through the chest and shoulder. Now, if there's any numbing or tingling through this extended right arm, you'll just lessen the rotation of your body, and you'll just begin to pull shoulders away from the ears, hopefully establishing that nerve connection. Take your breath a little higher up into your lungs, filling across the collarbones, expanding into your sternum. You really want to feel this through the front of your chest and shoulder. Make sure the shoulders aren't hiking up by your ears. You can even tuck the left palm behind you if you want. You'll find the space that works for you. And again, we're doing these longer holds to allow our connective tissues the opportunity to begin to explore space without upregulating our nervous system too much. So that just simply means that we're holding longer holds, applying gentle, mindful pressure, gauging it around about a level 5 or 6 out of 10. And always returning back to that beautiful symbiotic rhythm of breath. So if we're not breathing, we're not nourishing our cells, we're not nourishing our tissues. Slowly roll back to your belly. Unravel. Beautiful. Expand your left arm. As you extend the left arm, plant the right, just switching sides, bending the right knee. This time, just rolling to your left side. Lean the head back in line with the heart. Pull the shoulder blades together behind you and down, and then sweetly land your head. Now, if the bolster's too low for your head or too high, adjust with a rolled up towel or blanket or small pillow. Adjust with a block. Take what you need tonight. And again, this top leg doesn't need to be bent. It can just be resting wherever is comfortable. Let's take the breath right up into that heart space, filling from where the ribs connect up to the notch of your throat. And as you breathe that intentionally, can you soften through your jaw and keep your tongue and cheeks at rest? And again, if there's any numbing or tingling, you just lessen the rotation of the upper body. You reestablish that arm to shoulder connection, avoid cutting off any nerve points. Slowly unravel. Take your time to reset on your belly. Shift your bolster just out in front of you, and then press up onto your tabletop, hands and knees. And I'm going to invite you onto your side. So I'm going to go onto my left. I'm going to drop my left hip down to face you. And I'm going to inch that left palm about 1.5 feet away from that left hip. Grab a hold of one brick block or a tightly rolled up pillow at home. Yeah, you can use your bolster too. Yeah, I just find the blocks are the most accessible. Now, you're going to take that block, squish it on its flattest point between the upper thighs. Good. And then nice and slow, bend into the left elbow, give yourself a little perch, turn the left rib forward, right rib back, and then kick those legs out, feet flexed until the ankles, knees, and hips stack. So you gotta pull the right hip forward, and then slowly press back into that left palm, right hand in front for balance. Now, nice and slow, you're gonna push down through the left hip, lift up through that left side body. Now, feel as if the rib cage could hammock towards the left elbow. The left shoulder is gonna slink up to that left ear. Let it slink, and then let those ribs hammock. Now, deepen your breath right into those lower bellies, right into the oblique pocket there, yeah. There's a lot of really juicy connective tissue surrounding that outer hip crest, right? Getting those T-bends, outer hip muscles. Do you feel that through the outer belly? Yeah? Okay. Now, if propping yourself up on the hand is just not for you, you can lay your arm down onto a bolster or the edge of a couch. Same idea, just as long as you're hammocking the ribs towards the elbow. And I'm still stacking the thigh bones to really feel that top hip ground the bottom thigh bone. So it's like the weight of gravity and this decompression of the right thigh is pushing the left thigh bone deeper and wider into the lateral hip socket. Good. We have 10 more breaths. Now, wherever you're beginning to compile sensation, take your breath there. So again, the goal is that lower rib, maybe side body into the oblique. Last 2 cycles of breath. Gently bend your left elbow, bend your knees, slowly lift up. And then you have the option to just flip around to face the other wall. I'm just gonna switch ends of my mat so that I'm still facing you. So right hand about 1.5 feet away from the right hip. That block's still scrunched between the inner thighs. Left palm in front of you for balance. Bend the right elbow, extend the legs straight and strong. Flex the feet back. Stack your ankles, stack your knees so that left hip's pulling forward. And then nice and slow, press into the right palm, push away from the ground. And then nice and slow, let the right shoulder come up towards that right ear. Let the right rib slink towards that right elbow. How's this side in comparison, right? Really begin to notice the tissues through that side, maybe through the ribs, the lower hip, the belly. It's a really awesome space to tackle into, to aid in digestion, to aid in lower back tension. Right, we forget our side bodies are actually quite a big support system for our spines. How can we savor the next 10 cycles of breath? How can we begin to illuminate when tissues begin to shift in sensation? Last 2 breaths. Gently bend the right elbow, lean your hips back, bend your knees. Come onto your seat. Shift your block away from the thighs. Let's take a moment just to sit up tall and turn to face the front of our mat. Elongate up the side bodies. We're going to take a big forward fold from here. So nice and slow, I want you to really expand through the spine. And then option to keep your blocks close by because we're going to kind of play grown-up architect, grown-up Lego here. So blocks are going to be close by. Now, if you have some trouble rocking forward onto the pelvis, you can actually take your gray block and place it underneath your sacrum and then almost shunk your sit bones off the edge of the block to get a little tilt of the pelvis. And sometimes that's enough to provide sensation through the legs and back. I'm going to keep the feet active, pulling the toes back into the body and gently firming the heels into the ground. Then once you've got all that set up, inhale, lengthen. Exhale, just begin to hinge any amount with a flat back. Shoulders zipper down away from the ears. Chest presses forward. Good, until that point that you can't push any further, and then allow yourself to slowly hinge and round. Feel free to grab your blocks at this point and build yourself a little forehead rest, a little perch for your coconut. And that perch can be as tall as you need it, as short as you need it. You might not even land your forehead at all, you might just land the elbows. Beautiful. See if you can just let the upper body hang a little bit easier. And then as you feel the upper body begin to hammock down, let your belly expand into your lap. Actually amplifying sensation and creating and cultivating space just by breathing. Now, if you're here and this is just way too much, feel free to ease back. If you're here and your hamstrings are screaming at you, you just can't get any mobility in the pelvis, you can actually take your bolster underneath your knees for greater hamstring support to assist in that tilt. Again, choosing your own adventure, finding what's going to work best for you tonight. Yeah, perfect use of props there. Slowly hinge. Again, any amount. See if you can begin to identify the sound of your breath. Notice this gentle wash in, and it's relaxing wash out. Last breath. Inhale, slow rise. Beautiful. Shift your hips. Come on to all fours, tabletop position. We're going to bounce into our hip flexors a little more, getting into some low lunges. So you might want to keep your gray block and your blanket on your mat or close by for use. I like to use it just to cushion the back knee, back shin. I'm even going to fold my mat up just a little bit more so there's extra love and kindness to the knee joints. All right. Let's bring the blocks forward so that they are close by for use. And then really balancing wrist creases on your shoulders, knees under hips. Just take a moment to elongate your spine. Push away from the ground, look forward, inhale. And then exhale, round your spine like a Halloween cat. Push the back of your heart away from the ground. Pause, give me 5 breaths in this cat pose. Find that neutral flat back. Let's start by stepping right foot forward between the thumbs. And it's okay if the foot doesn't make it the first time. If it's back, you can step it up even further. Grab your blocks, bring them in closer, just to support your upper body already, right? Blocks are just another name, different vernacular for arm extenders. Tuck your back toes and inch the back knee back as much as you can, just to sink the left hip crease. And then if it feels safe for you, you can slowly begin to build your blocks up, stacking your body. Now creating that gentle contraction from that front right heel towards the back left knee. Feel like you're trying to slice the tailbone forward towards the front edge of your mat. Hold the shoulders down and back at the top, allowing almost a lightness and easiness to spread over the upper limbs. Yeah, especially the jaw, the neck. We tend to bunch here almost as if we're bracing. If we're bracing, we can't relax. We probably need to back it out a little bit, right? So again, find your level 5 or 6 out of 10. Finding that space where you're identifying, you're meeting deep sensation, but you're not having to grit through it. Find that grace. Beautiful. So really just beginning to notice breath. There we go, get the timer going. Allowing gravity to do the work for you. And then just observing that gentle, buoyant belly. Right? There's a little bit of intensity to this shape, so how can we bring some gentleness to it? How can we hold it with a little bit more compassion, a little bit more softness, rather than having to rigor everything all the time to really push through and make it intense, right? It's only as intense as we want it to be. It's only as intense as we make it. All right, we do these longer holds to allow our connective tissue the opportunity to expand in its webbing, so that when we release, there's a fascial recoil. Connective tissue and fascia are interchangeable terms. There's a fascial recoil so that the webbing, the netting of your fascia begins to change shape as it comes back. It doesn't come back as knotted or tight and sticky. Right? It's just creating more space in our bodies so that our cells can function better, our tissues can function better, our brains can function better. We love that one. Right? Sometimes there are days where I don't think it's functioning at all. The good news is you only have 3 more breaths. That's it, that's all. Slowly lean forward, press your hips gently back, reset to tabletop, hands and knees. Might feel good to wag your tail, might feel good to sway side to side. If it feels good to flush out your spine with some cat and cows, go ahead. Otherwise, just moving intuitively to rebalance and reset. One more cycle of breath. Other side. Let's step the left foot forward and through. And again, anchoring the right heel down. The right shoelace side of the foot down. Grab your blocks to build your body up, right? Our arm extenders. Push the chest forward. Tuck the back right toes and inch the right knee back just until you can feel a little bit of lengthening to the right thigh and front of right hip. Alrighty, this might be the position you stay in, and that's okay. This might be enough tonight. Again, be kind to yourself. Otherwise, really contracting right hip forward, left hip back. You might begin to build it up. As you build it up, maybe you walk the hands back beside the hips, maybe you lift up a little taller, contracting the hips forward and sinking into that hip flexor. All right, we've got a lot of really awesome, juicy muscles here, those crossing limbs, those crossing flexors. But what's really cool is if our hip flexors are tight, they actually weave through our pelvis to the very back of our pelvic bowl into the ischium, the ischial bowl. And that connects to the top of the pelvic bowl where the psoas essentially starts. Your psoas is the biggest hip flexor on your whole body. The annoying part about the psoas is that it's our deepest tissue muscle in our hip flexors, and it's on our back. So really the best way to actually access our psoas, if we are going to begin to tackle into it, is through the front. So sometimes you have to lay on some weight, sometimes you have to actually physically maneuver and shift our organs to begin to palpate it. And if our psoas is sticky and tight, it can create lower back discomfort, it can create digestive discomfort. It can actually impact our diaphragm because it weaves and threads up to the base of our diaphragm. So if our hip flexors are sticky and tight, we're not breathing 100% to our full capacity. Isn't that crazy? I know. So just notice where you're at, observing it with curiosity and kindness. You have less than a minute, you're almost there, I know. Last 5 breaths. Really expand them into that hip pocket. Slowly lean forward. Push your hips back. Tabletop. Beautiful. All right, let's get into a small hip opener or pigeon just to get the glutes a little bit more open, give them a little bit of love. You're more than welcome to keep your blocks and your bolster close by. It's good to have the blocks close for quick grab. Otherwise, from all fours. I'm going to start with my left knee to pull my left knee in. Aim to have the left knee in towards the left wrist, and then angle that left shin bone to any degree between the right hip and the right wrist. Tuck those right toes. Begin to inch your hips back. You're kind of falling to the outside of that left shin bone. Make sure that foot is either flexed or pointed, just keeping some structural integrity to the shin bone. And if there's a lot of space between that left hip and the ground, you can grab a block or two, your bolster, place it underneath the hip to really ground down through the pelvis. And lifting up through the spine, inhale, exhale. Feel free to bow forward and lengthen out. So there should be no negative torque on the knee. Should just begin to isolate that sensation in that left hip. If you're feeling a lot of sensation in the knee, what you can do is, again, just adjust the angle of that shin bone. Maybe you have to pull left hip back, right hip forward, pressing the shin bone down, create some contraction. Or if that still doesn't serve you, just roll right onto that left hip for passive pigeon. Right knee will come forward, left knee will go forward, feeling that 90-degree angle between both legs. You'll sit tall and just hinge towards the knee with structural support. So choose your own adventure. You have options. Make sure you don't feel stuck anywhere. You're not forcing anything. Come back to that ebb and flow of breath. Getting into those deep, juicy rotators. In less than a minute. That's good news, right? What can we let go of in the next minute? What can we shift and change? There are studies that show that just by mindfully breathing and getting really still for 90 seconds, 90, we can actually begin to have a small effect on changing our neurochemistry and what's happening in the thought process. Mind you, that's more or less just targeted towards grumpy moods or little bouts of road rage at best. But 90 seconds, isn't that cool? Slowly rise to reset. Make your way back to tabletop. Rebalance, restructure as needed. Move your blocks where they are still within reach. And we're just going to switch sides. Right knee into right wrist. Angle the right shin bone to any degree between the left hip and left wrist. Tuck the left toes and inch the left foot back, allowing your hips to sink down. Really elongate through the lower back, creating more space, more room from the hip bones to rib bones. And then feeling this in the glute, not the knee, right? You have the options to modify. Bow it forward. And then really notice if you can get out of the upper back. Free the neck and shoulders, allowing a little bit more fluidity of space and energy there. And as you exhale, unbunch the brow line and soften the cheeks and forehead. Notice the expansion of the inhale. Notice the relaxation of your exhale. Inhale, slow rise. Press back to tabletop. Awesome. Come and take a seat on your mat. I'm going to turn to face all of you so you can see what I'm doing. Bring your 2 blocks and your strap with you. Did everyone grab a strap? If not, that's okay. A long tether at home will work, a long scarf. Now, we're gonna get into a wide leg side body stretch, so Parvrita Jana Shashasana. So nice and slow, take your left leg all the way out to the left. Bring the right heel in towards the inner thigh. Now, if this knee is pretty buoyant, you can ground it by double, triple folding your mat or just even bolstering with your blanket or block. And then sit up really tall with your rib cage. And as you lengthen out the spine, keep your chest, keep your trunk facing front. You want to think about taking that right rib, that outer right side, towards the right toes, not down to the right hip. You want to take it past the hip towards the toes. So I like to bring the blocks in to frame the thigh, the knee, just to start. And then take your strap. Doesn't matter if it's in a loop or not. You're just going to wrap it around the left foot. Take that strap into your left palm. Left palm's open like you're receiving a treat. Beautiful. And as you sit tall, inhale. Keep the right hip heavy. Exhale, begin to draw the left rib towards the left toes. Now notice how I'm not turning down. I'm actually lifting the left rib up, creating that opening through the chest and shoulders. And I'm leaning the left rib to the left, to the left, to the left. Yeah. And with that strap, I'm tugging the left elbow towards the hip, trying to almost create more space through that right side body. Beautiful. You might stay here. You might drop the elbow to a block, a prop. You might even not even use the strap, and you might just use your pace fingers on the toes. Continue to roll the chest open. Right palm can rest on right hip. And then again, just feeling that long right side body, really getting into a little bit of the superficial tissues, the QL, getting into the outer obliques. Beautiful. Maybe you reach the right arm up, maybe reach it over. Again, if that's too much, again, the hand can just rest down. Find the place that serves you. Right, so maybe the elbow is landing on a block, maybe it's on the ground. Again, continue to roll the chest open, feeling that big right side body stretch. Are you feeling that there? Beautiful. Keep rolling the heart open and lean the head slightly back. If turning your gaze up to the inner bicep is too much on the neck, you can just turn gaze down. If you don't have the big toes, that's okay too. You don't really need to grab them. You can just rest the forearm down. It's wherever you're at, again, modifying, making it serve. You're finding that level 5 or 6 out of 10 sensation for you. Last 10 breaths. How can we soften in? What limiting belief systems or fixed mindsets can we set aside to just simply be with breath and sensation? Sometimes all it takes is just a little bit of permission, maybe some intentional breathing. And then other times it takes a glass of wine, and that's okay, that's your own prerogative. One more inhale. Exhale. Slowly rise. Sit up tall at the top. Wiggle out. Kind of feels like you have a whole new side body at this point. We're going to switch sides. Bring your blocks and straps over to the right. Let's extend the right leg out to the right. Left foot to the inner right thigh. And I just want you to really elongate, wriggle up the vertebrae. Good. Frame your blocks around the knee, the thigh, just so that they're there to support you. And then I'm going to actually tuck my blanket right underneath my left knee so the knee's not flopping around in space, so I get really grounded there. Good. Sitting tall, ribs face front. Wrap your strap around that right foot, palm open to the ceiling. And then begin to lean the right rib to the right toes. Stay hip heavy through the left glute. You slide the hand down to assist in adding that gentle anchor. Lengthen the ribs, turn the chest open. Maybe the elbow lands to a block, maybe it doesn't. You have to move your blocks down, maybe move them up, maybe drop them down a height. Find what works for you. Beautiful, left palm, left hip. Inhale, elongate. Exhale, shoulders down and back. Keep rolling the right rib front. Lean your left rib back. Good. Keep going. Maybe you sink all the way down to the right forearm or elbow. Maybe you hook the big toes. Maybe you reach left arm up and over. Take your breath to trace down from hip to rib to armpit. Again, really notice the length of your side bodies, the length of your breath. Last 10 breaths. Slowly rise. Pause at the top. Let your side bodies rebalance. Make your way onto your back. Feel free to lay on your blanket or just on your mat. Feel free to get your bolster close by. I'm gonna make a little pillow for my head. You don't necessarily need to. All right, come onto your spine with bent knees. Press into the hips and elongate your tailbone. Add a little wriggle just to let go of any gripping, any holding through the belly or lower back. We're gonna take some twists as you branch the arms open. Tuck your shoulder blades underneath your spine. Lift your knees up halfway. Exhale, tailbone goes left, knees go right. Feel free to add any blankets, bolsters, pillows underneath the knees, between the knees. If this is too much spiral for the spine, you're getting lower back pain, you'll lessen the rotation and actively put a bolster to rest your lower back on to support. So find what works for you. And again, if you need a hand, give me a big wave. I'm happy to help modify. Push your tailbone away from your crown. Maybe you gaze in the opposite direction of your knees. But again, only if that feels good for your neck and head. Use your next inhale to sweetly contract. Lift back through to center. Rebalance your hips and lower spine. Lift your shins up halfway. Take your tailbone an inch or two to the right. Let your knees fall left, switching sides. And again, just finding the twist that's going to serve you. So if you need props or blocks, go ahead, grab them, place them underneath, between to support your limbs. And then really square your chest open to the roof. Feel the length of your neck. Drop the weight of your head. If you'd like, you can gaze in the opposite direction of the knees if that feels okay for the lower back and neck. Let your breath revolve around your rib cage, spiraling around your spine all the way down to the tip of your tailbone. Last 3 breaths. Gaze back to the ceiling. Use your inhale to contract and sweetly come back to center. Rebalance your spine. Coming into our final pose tonight, Supta Baddha Konasana, reclined butterfly. You might want your blocks here to place under the thighs to make this more passive. Otherwise, feet together, knees wide in that butterfly shape. I'm going to open palms into cactus or a diamond shape above your head. Tuck the shoulder blades under. And then feel your breath expand through the 4 opening major joints, the hips and the shoulders. Let your head rest heavy. And again, if this is too much sensation to the inner thighs or across the front of your pelvis, just tuck some pillows or blocks underneath the thighs for support. Feel the weight of your forearms drop. Unclench through the hips. Become so at rest, so relaxed that you can't even help but notice a lightness to your toes and the inner arches of your feet.